I answer a Craigslist ad that feels just a little too perfect. You know the kind, just a single paragraph, no photos, no fluff. It offered $2,000 a week cash for house-sitting an old property in the Berkshires. Fully furnished, peaceful, minimal upkeep. Must be comfortable alone for long stretches, it said. I clicked save and moved on. But the next day it was still there. Still unclaimed. No scam links, no demands for deposits, just a number. And I called it. The man who answered didn't introduce himself. He just asked if I could be there by Saturday. Said I could bring books, food, anything I needed. But no guests. Just you in the house, he said. His voice was slow and clear, like he'd memorized the words. I should have hung up. I should have asked for references, reviews, or at least a last name. But I needed the money. I'd just been laid off. Rent was overdue. My savings were a joke. He texted me the address and a code to a lockbox. The keys inside, he wrote. You'll know what to do once you're there. When I pulled up to the house 3 days later, it didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. Like whoever lived here had stepped outside just long enough for me to arrive. The grass was freshly cut. A single porch light glowed in the daylight. The screen door swayed gently, even though the wind was still. Inside the lockbox was a brass key and a folded sheet of paper, laminated, worn at the corners, titled Rules for House Sitter. There were 8 in total, typed in plain black ink. Rule 1, do not sleep upstairs. Rule 2, do not let the mailman speak. The rule of 3, leave the 3rd floor window cracked at all times. The 4 rules, feed the fireplace once per night. The 5 rules, do not explore past the 2nd floor hallway. The 6 rules, never answer your own voice. The rule of 7s, if you feel watched, you are. Do not react. The 8 rules, leave before the final check. I read the list 3 times, convinced it was a prank, but the furniture was real. The groceries in the fridge were fresh. The money, a stack of envelopes tucked into the freezer, was very, very real. 2,000, just like he said. That night I sat in the living room surrounded by quiet. No cars, no neighbors. Just me, the trees, and this creaky old house pretending not to notice me. I made a bowl of cereal and decided to sleep on the main floor couch. I wasn't about to test Rule 1. The fireplace clicked as the flames settled. The shadows bent strangely along the floor. I tried not to look at the staircase in the dark, not because I was scared, but because I didn't know what I'd do if I saw someone standing at the top of it. Just before I dozed off, the couch groaned beneath me. Not loudly, not like it was shifting weight. Just a soft creak like an exhale. I turned onto my side, facing away from the room, and the floorboard behind the couch creaked once, then stopped. I didn't check. I just reminded myself of what the note had said. You'll know what to do once you're there. And somehow I did. I slept. I shouldn't have. The first full morning was oddly peaceful. Sunlight streamed in through lace curtains in the kitchen, painting the old tile floors in golden patterns. I made coffee, cheap, instant stuff from the canister on the counter. Everything was where it should be. The cabinets were stocked with basic supplies. The fridge had eggs, milk, a block of cheddar, and a note in the top corner that just said, "Help yourself." For about 20 minutes, I let myself pretend I wasn't creeped out. I texted a friend a picture of the house captioned, "It haunted cottagecore dream job," and added a skull emoji. The place really was beautiful. Vintage high ceilings, stained glass in the hallway. but too many corners. Too many places where something could stand just out of view. I noticed it while rinsing out my mug. A van idling at the bottom of the long gravel drive. White, no logo, no windows, just sitting there. After maybe 10 seconds, the driver stepped out. Blue uniform, cap, USPS logo. The mailman. He held a single envelope in his gloved hand. Didn't walk toward the porch. Just stood by the gate staring at the house like he was trying to remember something. Or waiting for someone to move first. I stepped back from the window. Rule 2 came flooding back into my mind. Do not let the mailman speak. Not don't answer the door. Not don't take the mail. Just don't let him speak. He started up the gravel path. Casual, measured, like he wasn't in a hurry. My heart hammered as I locked the deadbolt and drew the curtain. The porch creaked, slow, deliberate. Then came the knock. 3 taps, barely loud enough to hear. I stood just on the other side of the door, breathing shallow, not daring to say a word. Then he said my name, not shouted, not even questioned, just stated, like he'd known it for years. Tyler. I hadn't told anyone the job address, not even my friend. I stepped back. He knocked again, this time with more force. Tyler, I've got something for you. They said you'd be expecting me. I didn't move. A beat passed, then 2, and just as I reached for the phone to dial 911, not that I was even sure where I was, on a map, the sound stopped. No footsteps, no retreating vehicle, nothing. I waited a solid 10 minutes before cracking the door. There was no envelope, no van, just a single red paperclip on the doormat. I left it there. Later that day, I tried to reason it all out. Maybe it was some weird local tradition. Maybe the guy was harmless eccentric. But Rule 2 echoed louder every time I tried to push it away. Don't let the mailman speak. He had, and he'd known my name. That night, I double-locked everything. As I lay down on the couch again, the upstairs creaked in long, even intervals, like someone pacing slowly from one side of the house to the other. I reminded myself Rule 1 hadn't been broken. I hadn't slept upstairs. I hadn't even gone up. But Rule 2, that line was blurred now. He spoke, and I listened. The second night was colder. The house had a thermostat, an old analog dial on the living room wall. But no matter how high I turned it, the air stayed chilled. Not freezing, just basement cold. That kind of ambient cold that feels like it's in your bones, not the room. The fireplace crackled to life the second I lit a match. That was something. At least the rules didn't say I couldn't enjoy it. I tossed in some kindling from the bucket and settled in for another night on the couch. I figured I'd earned it. Survived the creepy mailman, resisted the temptation to poke around upstairs. The house had been quiet all day. Too quiet, honestly. The fridge hummed, the floorboards occasionally shifted with the changing temperature, and one of the stained glass windows let in a squeaky little moan when the wind blew just right. But no footsteps, no voices, no phone calls, no neighbors, no mailman, and yet I still felt like someone was watching me from the top of the staircase. I refused to look. Around 11:30, I decided to call it a night. I grabbed the fleece blanket from the armrest, turned off the lamp, and lay back in the glow of the fire. It was kind of peaceful, I'll admit. Just the gentle crackle of flame and the wind brushing against the windows like a soft hush. I felt myself drifting off, and then the lights went out. Not a flicker, not a dim, just gone, all at once. I sat up instantly. The fire was still going strong, casting flickering orange shadows across the hardwood floor and up the staircase, which I still avoided looking at. But the hallway, the kitchen, the back den, pitch black. Then I noticed it. The smell. It was faint at first, like burnt cinnamon or scorched sugar. Then it sharpened closer to rust-wet leaves and something organic, like fur left out in the rain. I stood up and crept to the kitchen. The switch didn't work. None of them did. I reached for the flashlight in the drawer where I'd seen it earlier that day, and the moment I flicked it on, I heard it. A voice, low, whispering, coming from the hallway near the stairs. Didn't sound like speech exactly. More like someone whispering a conversation to themselves. Fast, breathless, like two people talking in one throat. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the light in the guest bathroom, the only bulb still working, flicked on by itself. Just once, then off. I counted the rules again in my head. Nothing about lights, nothing about whispers, nothing about this. I went back to the couch and sat stiffly in the orange glow. And that's when I noticed something small on the brick ledge of the fireplace. A sticky note, pale yellow, singed at the edge. I hadn't put it there. It said, "You forgot Rule 3. My stomach dropped. I ran to the third-floor window. Well, I tried to. But the staircase up to the third floor didn't exist. There was no third floor. Or at least there wasn't supposed to be. The main floor, the second floor with the bedrooms I was told to avoid. And now staring at the ceiling above the upstairs hallway, I saw it. A hatch. A pull-down attic ladder. I hadn't noticed it before. I hadn't looked. But it was cracked open now. The smell was stronger up there. Thick, clinging to the walls like smoke. I reached the top of the stairs and called out. Stupid, I know. Hello, is someone up there? No answer. But the whispering stopped. That was somehow worse. I grabbed the bottom rung of the ladder and tugged. It groaned open with a horrible sound like peeling a wet sticker off glass. Above me, darkness, and a single window, third floor northwest corner, hanging slightly ajar. Rule 3. Leave the third floor window cracked at all times. It was shut, slammed tight. I don't remember deciding to climb. I just know my hands were suddenly gripping the wood, my feet lifting off the floor one step at a time. I reached the top and poked my head into the attic space. The flashlight barely cut through the dark. The beam landed on boxes, plastic sheeting, what looked like a broken rocking horse in the corner. And then movement. Something slithered out of the window frame. Not a person. Not an animal. Not anything with a name I could give. Just length. A shape that folded in on itself like a ribbon made of shadow. It slid into the attic like it had been waiting for someone to shut it out. I dropped the flashlight, slipped down the ladder, missed the last 3 rungs, hit the hallway floor and scrambled back. The window creaked open behind me on its own, and the smell disappeared. Just like that. I didn't sleep that night, didn't close my eyes once, and in the morning the yellow note was gone. I didn't leave the couch that morning. I just sat there wrapped in the fleece blanket, staring at the fireplace and listening to the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the corner. The kind of sound that only gets louder the more you try to ignore it. I hadn't dreamed. That was the strange part. After what happened in the attic, after whatever that thing was slipped in, I should have passed out from stress. Instead, I stayed sharp, alert, not tired, not wired, just waiting. Like my body knew the house hadn't finished with me yet. I made coffee again, ate cereal, waited for something else to change. At 10:12 a.m., I got another visitor. I saw him coming from the same window I'd watched the mailman, from the one above the sink. A man in a dark coat this time. Slender, hat low over his face. He walked the gravel path slowly, almost dragging one foot. He stopped at the porch, didn't knock, just stood there. I pressed myself against the kitchen wall and peeked through the crack between the curtain and the window frame. His posture never changed. Head down, shoulders still, one hand in his coat pocket. Remembered the rules. No mention of uninvited guests yet. But I didn't open the door. I didn't speak. After 5 minutes, he slipped something through the mail slot. I heard it tap against the wood floor. Then he walked away. When I was sure he was gone, I approached the door. A sheet of paper lay face down near my shoes. I picked it up. Another list. Same typeface, same laminate. But this one was titled Revised Instructions Week 2. There were new rules. Some were replacements, some were added. Rule 1. Continue to sleep downstairs only. Rule 2. Do not open the attic again. The rule of 3. Do not speak aloud between 2:00 and 3:00 a.m. The 4 rules. Feed the fireplace as instructed, but never look inside. The 5 rules. If the lights go red, stop moving. The 6 rules. If you hear knocking behind you, do not turn around. The rule of 7s. Do not accept help, even if they know your name. The 8 rules. Never try to leave without permission. There it was. A line I didn't realize I was afraid to cross without permission. I hadn't thought about leaving until I read it. Now it was all I could think about. I flipped the page. On the back, a single handwritten note. We appreciate your compliance. No signature. I folded the sheet and shoved it in the back of the kitchen drawer with the extra plastic bags and a broken bottle opener. That afternoon was quiet again, but not still. The shadows shifted too quickly, like clouds overhead were racing each other. And the clocks didn't match. The one in the hallway said 2:35. The microwave said 3:12. My phone flickered between both. I decided not to trust any of them. I kept to daylight spaces, open areas. I made noise when I moved, hummed to myself, tapped the table, kept the Bluetooth speaker playing ambient music, just so there'd be something human in the air. Around sunset, I prepared the fireplace. I remember the instruction, feed it, but never look inside. I brought one of the raw steaks from the fridge, the ones I hadn't bought, and dropped it into the fire like I'd done the night before. The flames reacted, popped, flared high like someone had thrown gasoline into the pit. And underneath the crackling fire, I heard a wet sound, like chewing. I shut my eyes, counted to 10. When I opened them, the fire was small again. Normal, nothing on the floor. No bones, no ashes, no proof I'd just fed something that could eat. I backed away, sat down on the couch and checked the time. 2:01 a.m. No speaking between 200 and 30. I didn't move, didn't hum, didn't whisper. The Bluetooth speaker died. Silence closed in like a wall, and then I heard it. From behind the bathroom door at the end of the hall, a rhythmic tapping, like fingers on tile. Then a knock, not at the door. From the other side of the wall behind me, Rule 6, do not turn around. I held perfectly still. The knock came again, closer. A breath on the back of my neck. I wanted to scream, wanted to sob. Instead, I mouthed the words over and over. Don't move, don't move, don't move. The breath faded. The knocking stopped. At 3:01, the hallway light flickered back on, and I blinked like I hadn't done so in hours. The next morning, I decided to break Rule 5. I didn't plan it. I just needed answers. The red lights, the breathing behind my neck, the new list of rules that changed without warning. It was all starting to feel like a trap, I'd walked into willingly. So I got bold, or maybe reckless. I walked past the fireplace and into the second-floor hallway. Up until that point, I'd followed the rule to a T. Do not explore past the second-floor hallway. That left the attic, which I already regretted, the upstairs bedrooms off limits since night one, and whatever else the house was hiding up there. But I needed to know. It was still early, maybe 8:30 a.m. The hallway was lit naturally through an oval-shaped window at the far end. Dust floated lazily in the shafts of light. The whole place looked like a museum frozen in time. Yellow wallpaper peeling at the corners, old picture frames hung crooked, a grandfather portrait whose eyes seemed to follow me. There were 4 doors, 3 on the left, 1 on the right. Each had no markings, no labels. I stood in the hallway for a good minute before choosing the door on the right. The knob was cold and oddly greasy. It took more force than I expected to turn it. The room inside was untouched, perfectly arranged. A 4-post bed with an ornate quilt. A large bay window looking out over the back garden. A dusty vanity with a small jewelry box resting neatly in the center. It smelled like dried flowers and furniture polish. For a moment, I wondered if someone had slept here last night. The sheets were smooth, the pillows undented, but there was a dent in the carpet next to the bed, like someone had been kneeling there for a long time. I backed out and closed the door. Next, I tried the far left room. This one was locked. From the inside, I knocked just to see if it was stuck, and something knocked back. One time. Not rushed, not aggressive, but it knocked. I froze. Then, like an idiot, I whispered, "Hello." I didn't mean to. The word just slipped out. A whisper came back. "Help me." I stepped away from the door and bumped into a side table. The lamp on top wobbled and fell with a loud crash. I scrambled to pick it up, heart pounding, and then realized everything had gone dark again. Not pitch black, but the sunlight was gone. The window at the end of the hall, now just a rectangle of murky gray, as if something was pressed up against the other side of it. I ran, downstairs, past the fireplace, into the kitchen. My phone said it was 2:11 a.m. Impossible. It had just been morning. I turned on the faucet, splashed cold water on my face, looked up into the window, saw my reflection, except I wasn't moving. I blinked. The reflection didn't. Then it smiled. A slow, wide grin I wasn't making. I looked down, my own lips were closed. When I looked up again, the reflection was gone. Not different, just gone. No face, no body, just the kitchen, empty. I stepped away from the sink, slowly keeping my back to the wall. My hands were shaking, and then I remembered something I hadn't thought about in days. Back on the original list, the first set of 8 rules, Rule 6 had said, never answer your own voice. This wasn't just about voices now. It was about copies. Something in this house was mimicking me. My voice, my face, maybe even my thoughts. At that moment, I didn't trust a single noise I made. The quiet now felt loaded, like it was listening, taking notes. I sat on the couch again and stared at the fireplace. Rule 4 from the revised list. Feed it as instructed, but never look inside. I hadn't broken that rule yet, but I was beginning to think I wouldn't need to, because something behind those flames already knew I was watching. The licking of the fire slowed, became rhythmic, almost deliberate, and beneath the logs I saw movement. Not firelight, not smoke, something with fingers. I closed my eyes, counted to 10. When I opened them, the fire was gone, extinguished. In its place, a single object sat on the ashes. A ring, plain, Silver, too clean to have just come out of a fire. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I grabbed a kitchen tongs from the drawer and used it to drop the ring into a mason jar. The moment the lid screwed tight, the lights came back on. Time returned to normal. But something new had been added to the fridge. A Tupperware container labeled in Sharpie for tonight. Inside was another raw steak, and taped to the lid a post-it note. Rule 10. You're not allowed to quit. I didn't eat anything that day. I couldn't. Every time I opened the fridge, I saw the Tupperware container with the steak marked for tonight and lost my appetite all over again. There was something wrong with it beyond just the label. Meat didn't look right. The marbling was too patterned, like veins, like it belonged inside something not on a plate. I sealed the fridge and went back to the couch, where the air felt less judgmental. I sat there for hours listening to the house settle. It wasn't just creaks anymore. It was more deliberate. Like the walls were breathing. Like the plumbing groaned in response to my thoughts. If I looked toward a closed door for too long, it would shift just slightly, like something on the other side leaned closer. And then there was the smell. It started around 5 p.m. Burnt sage, musty cloth, copper. I followed it, nose wrinkled all the way to the base of the attic ladder. The hatch was closed now, but the scent leaked through like moldy incense. I didn't dare open it. I already broke Rule 5. That had consequences. I wasn't ready to test Rule 2 again. Don't let the mailman speak, but I still checked the porch that evening, just in case another visitor decided to show. Instead of a knock, there was just a small parcel on the doormat, wrapped in butcher paper tied with twine. No name, no address, just a note taped to the top. Feed this one raw. I brought it inside, placed it on the kitchen table. It was heavy, dense. I didn't unwrap it. I didn't want to know what was inside. At 11:59 p.m., I took both the package and the Tupperware to the fireplace. The room felt colder. Even with the fire roaring, I threw the steak in first, heard the sizzle, watched the flames leap. Then I unwrapped the paper. Inside was something pale and wet like fat. It twitched. Just once. I dropped it in before I could change my mind. The fire didn't roar, didn't hiss. It moaned, a low, vibrating groan that filled the room like a foghorn under the floor. The flames turned blue, and for the first time I saw something look back from behind the fire. It wasn't a face, not really, just a shimmer, an outline. But it was enough to send me staggering back, tripping over the rug, knocking into the coffee table and scraping my palm. The moaning stopped. The fire returned to normal, and the ring was gone. In its place, another post-it. Thank you. That was the right one. I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at the mirror for a long time. My face was mine. No smile, no delay. But I didn't trust it anymore. I took a photo with my phone just to be sure. The image came out blank. Black screen. I tried again. Same result. I deleted the photo app entirely. I sat on the floor back to the tub, gripping the knife I kept by the nightstand. Not for defense, just to feel weight in my hand. Something real. At exactly 2:00 a.m., the silence deepened, like a radio frequency tuning out. I remembered the new rules specifically. Rule 3. Do not speak aloud between 2:00 and 3:00 a.m. Easy enough. I wasn't in the mood for conversation, but something else was. From behind the bathroom door came a voice. My voice, but not quite. It sounded like me on a recording, old degraded, just slightly slowed down. Why did you open it? I didn't answer. I didn't want to be here. You brought me back. I covered my mouth with both hands. Please, Let me finish this time. I gritted my teeth, counted backward from 100. The voice continued. It's not your turn. You broke it. You broke the rhythm. My legs shook. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Something old. Like the words weren't just speaking to me, they were remembering me. At 2:59 a.m., the voice stopped. I waited another 10 minutes before creeping back into the living room. The house was dead quiet again, but the note on the mantel had changed. The ink was fresher now, almost wet. We'll fix it tomorrow. Don't leave. I didn't plan to. Not because I didn't want to, but because I'd checked all the doors earlier that day. They were gone. Not locked. Gone. Just walls now. Like the house had forgotten what doors were for. The next morning started with static. Not from the fireplace. Not from my phone. From inside the walls. A low, dry crackling like an old radio, searching for a signal just beneath the surface of the drywall, running from outlet to outlet. At first I thought it was in my head. Maybe a side effect of not sleeping, or stress, or whatever the hell last night was. But then the microwave blinked on by itself. 12 zeros, then letters, feed, and then it shut off. I stood there, mouth dry, staring at my reflection in the black door of the microwave. I looked older, paler, like I'd lost weight in my sleep, except I hadn't slept. I couldn't remember the last time I really had. I made coffee with trembling hands. The taste barely registered. The floor beneath me felt uneven, tilted, and there was something new taped to the kitchen cabinet. Another rule. No title this time. No format. Just a ripped piece of notebook paper with jagged handwriting. Rule 11. Do not accept help, even if they know your name. That felt like a warning I should have gotten a lot sooner. I spent the rest of the day trying to map the house. Literally, I used a pencil and the back of a takeout menu to draw out the rooms, living room, kitchen. Bathroom, second floor hallway, attic stairs. I measured distances. Tried to create something linear from a place that refused to stay the same. Every time I looked up, the layout had shifted. Not by much, just enough to matter. A doorway moved 2 inches to the right. A window disappeared, then reappeared with the blinds already drawn. By sunset, I had a map that meant nothing, and a headache that made me nauseous. So I did the only thing I still knew how to do. I fed the fire. No mystery meat this time. Just the last raw steak in the fridge. I didn't look at it too closely. Didn't sniff it. Didn't ask why it was wrapped in butcher paper that wasn't there the day before. I opened the fireplace. The coals were already warm. Like something had been waiting. I tossed it in and shut the grate. No post-it appeared. No sound came back. Just silence. That was somehow worse. Then just as I turned away, I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. From inside the chimney. I didn't respond. Didn't blink. Just backed away slowly until the knock faded into the crackle of fresh flames. The rest of the night passed like a dream I wasn't allowed to wake from. At 1:58 a.m., I turned off all the lights and curled up on the couch, knife in hand, counting the seconds until 2:00. No speaking, no movement, just endure. That was the only plan left. But at 2:17, the doorknob to the bathroom began to turn. Slow, deliberate. I froze. There was no one else here. That door had been shut since the day before. I heard my voice again, from behind it. Tired, soft, like someone who'd been crying for hours. Tyler, it said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please let me out. I buried my face in the blanket and squeezed my eyes shut. Then it tried again with a different tone. Sharper, clipped, more awake. Come on, man. This isn't funny anymore. You left me in here. It was the voice from my voicemail greeting. Identical. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. Didn't move. At 2:59, the doorknob stopped. At 3:00 a.m., exactly, the door swung open. Empty. Nothing inside. No one. But something left the room. I could feel it. Like an absence. Like a space unfilling itself. I turned on the hallway light and found a piece of paper taped to the inside of the bathroom door. It was old, yellowed, torn at the corner. Roommate agreement. Tyler L. and Tyler L. I don't have a roommate. I never have. I stared at the signature line at the bottom. It was my handwriting, but the date. Dated exactly 1 year ago. And underneath a note in fresh ink. Renewal required before final check. I didn't remember signing anything. Not a lease. Not a waiver. Not whatever that roommate agreement was. I'd never lived here before. I'd never been to this town before. I was sure of that, at least I had been. Until I saw my own handwriting on that paper. Same loops, same crooked L's. Same way I crossed my T's a little too far to the right, but there was no memory of doing it. Not a flicker. I stood in the hallway outside the bathroom for nearly an hour just holding the paper. Turning it over in my hands like maybe the answers were on the back. They weren't. Just a faint red stain in the corner that hadn't dried yet. Too dark to be ink. I finally folded it up and slid it under the couch cushions. Out of sight. That was the moment the mirror by the stairs turned black, like someone had shut off the reflection. I approached, slowly hoping it was just a trick of light. It wasn't. The mirror still reflected the room, but I wasn't in it. I waved my hand in front of it. Nothing. The couch was there. The fireplace. Even the lump where I'd stuffed the paper. But no me. I touched the glass. It was warm. I don't know what I expected, maybe for it to stay dark. Maybe for the surface to stay still. But instead it breathed. Like a lung inhaling. The reflection pulsed once. Just once. Then I was back. My image flickered into place like an old VHS tape resuming playback. But something was off. I was smiling. I wasn't smiling in real life. My reflection stood there with the same face, same clothes, same every detail except for that wide tooth-bearing grin. And just as I stepped back in horror, it winked at me. I didn't touch the mirror again. That night, the hallway lights didn't flicker like usual. They turned off one by one in a straight line like dominoes falling. First the kitchen, then the den, then the hallway. Until the only light left was from the fireplace, which burned low and steady, almost suspiciously calm. I checked the fridge again. I hadn't wanted to, but something told me I needed to. Inside was a single glass jar, no lid, filled with water and a single human molar. The gum tissue still clung to the base. Next to it, a sticky note. Feed with care. It remembers. I didn't feed the fire that night. I didn't light it at all. I wanted to know what would happen if I broke that part of the routine. But that was a mistake. At exactly 12:47 a.m., I heard something heavy dragging across the second-floor ceiling. It started on the left side of the house, then moved. Slowly. Long, slow scrapes, like furniture being pushed, or claws. I stayed still, listening. No wind outside, no rain. Just those sounds above me pacing in circles. Then the ceiling cracked. Not broke, cracked. A single split in the drywall spread above the fireplace, and something fell through it. Small, pale, wet. It landed in the ashes. A tooth, the same as in the jar. I didn't touch it. I didn't even get up. At 1:14 a.m., the fire lit on its own, and the tooth disappeared. In its place, the jar from the fridge, now sealed. now glowing slightly from inside, and scrawled across the side in Sharpie, "Last chance." I backed away and spent the rest of the night in the kitchen, hugging my knees, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other. Breath shallow, like if I exhaled too hard the house would notice. It probably already had. I don't know when I fell asleep, but when I woke up just after sunrise, something was waiting on the coffee table. A letter. Yellow envelope. No stamp. Just my name. Handwritten in ink that shimmered when I moved it in the light. Inside a single sheet of paper. Final instructions for Tyler L. Typed. Clean. Crisp. 1. You have been observed. 2. Your pattern is consistent. 3. Your purpose is viable. 4. You will be processed shortly. 5. Please remain still. 6. Do not resist the next phase. 7. The house thanks you. 8. Renewal begins at dusk. No signature. No escape. Just those words. And underneath the list, my handwriting again. A single word I know I didn't write. Agreed. I didn't agree. I swear I didn't. That was the thought rattling around in my head as I reread the letter at least a dozen times. It wasn't just a signature or an X in a box. Someone had written the word agreed at the bottom of that instruction sheet in my own handwriting. Same loops, same pressure. Even the slight downward slant I'd been doing since high school. But I never wrote it, not in any memory I owned. I stood there in the cold morning air of the living room, the envelope shaking in my hand, trying to think. But there was no more logic in the house. That much had become clear. Every time I tried to apply reasoning, the house would shift. Slight things, subtle things. The clock would speed up. A drawer that used to stick would open easily. A mug I left in the kitchen sink would appear rinsed and drying on the counter. I wasn't sure if time was looping, if something was moving when I slept, or if I was doing it and forgetting. But now there was something else. The reflection wasn't showing me anymore. Every mirror in the house had gone black. I checked them all. The one in the bathroom, the full-length one in the hallway, even the glass pane of the microwave. Just darkness. No reflection, not even of the room itself. Just a depthless black, like I was looking through a hole punched in the universe. And behind that black I could feel something watching. Not impatient, not cruel, just curious. I tried to leave again. I walked to the front door, fully ready to throw it open, sprint down the gravel drive, and never stop. But it wasn't there. The door, I mean. It had been replaced with wallpaper. Same exact pattern as the wall beside it, floral and faded, and faintly peeling at the corners. But if you touched it, the texture was smooth. Seamless, like it had never been a door at all. Same thing with the back entrance. Same with the laundry room exit, which had already been suspiciously absent since week 1. I was sealed in, so I turned my attention to the rules. The original list, the revision, the new additions, all of them still in the drawer where I had stuffed them, except now they were bound in a 3-ring binder, black leather, my name embossed on the front in silver foil. I opened it. The first page was titled, Tyler L. House Integration Log, Active Cycle. Underneath was a running list of everything I'd done since arrival. Every violation, every compliance, even the moments I thought no one or nothing was watching. 9:10, read all rules. First compliance confirmed. 9:12, broke Rule 2, spoken contact initiated. 9:14, entered restricted second floor zone. 9:15, refused offering, correction initiated. 9:17, visual merger initiated. Partial overlay successful. That last line made my skin crawl. Partial overlay. Was that what the mirror thing was? Was that me? I flipped the page. There was a photograph taped to the next sheet. It was me, standing in the living room, but not any moment I remembered. I was facing the camera, smiling that too wide, too still grin I'd seen before. On the back of the photo was another message scrawled in fine black ink. The house prefers you this way. I ripped the page out, tore it in half, threw the binder across the room. It hit the couch and fell open, to a page I hadn't reached yet. Final rule: integration is a kindness. You will understand soon. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat on the cold wooden floor and stared at my reflection in the coffee pot. Or what should have been my reflection. All I saw was static, not darkness this time. Not even a warped image. Just noise. Grainy black and white static like an old TV screen. And in the midst of that, for a single instant, I swear I saw another face. Not mine, not even human, but familiar. It was the shape I'd seen behind the fire. The one I wasn't supposed to look for. The one that knocked once from inside the chimney. And it smiled, softly, like it knew something I didn't. I crawled into the hallway and pressed my back to the wall, head in my hands, heart racing too fast to track. I must have blacked out, because when I opened my eyes again, it was dusk, and there was a knock at the attic door. Not the hatch this time, a full-sized door, where there hadn't been one before. It was painted white clean, brand new, and it had my name carved into it. Just my first name, in block letters. Tyler, underneath a single line. Please enter calmly. You are expected. I didn't move at first. The new door, it didn't just exist now. It felt like it had always been there. Like I was the one who'd somehow forgotten it. Overlooked it every time I passed the attic hatch. But no, I knew this house by now. I knew where every door had been. I had counted them, measured them, mapped them. This one was new, and it had my name on it. The wood was pristine. No chips, no weathering. The letters carved into the surface were so clean, it looked like the door had been cut specifically for me. Underneath my name, the command, "Please enter calmly. You are expected," was printed on a bronze black polished so bright I could see my reflection, and my reflection smiled at me again. That slow, uncanny grin, too smooth, too symmetrical. I touched the doorknob, warm, almost breathing. I pulled my hand back and paced the hallway like an animal in a cage. The wallpaper seemed to shiver as I walked past. The house didn't creak anymore, it listened. It was waiting for something. By 7:43 p.m., I was sitting cross-legged in front of the door, staring at it like it might blink. I didn't want to go in, but I also knew this place well enough to understand something. If you're expected and don't show up, it sends someone else, or something, and I didn't want to meet whoever or whatever that was. So at 8:06 p.m., I stood up, took a deep breath, whispered calmly, and turned the knob. The door opened noiselessly into a space I could not describe if I had 1,000 years. It felt like an attic, dust insulation, low beams, but visually it didn't make sense. A circular room despite the triangular pitch of the roof outside. Walls stretched too tall, a ceiling that shimmered like deep water. In the center, a chair. My chair. I recognized it from my old apartment. The crappy blue recliner I had to throw out when the frame broke. It was sitting there like it had been waiting for me all along. And on the floor beside it, a small box. Plain cardboard, taped shut. There was a note on top. Last step. Sit then open. I didn't want to follow instructions anymore, but I did. I sat in the chair. It creaked beneath me just like I remembered. And then the box moved. Not slid, not pushed. It shivered like something alive was inside. I peeled the tape, lifted the lid. Inside was a camcorder, a dusty old handheld recorder, the kind my dad used to have when I was a kid. I lifted it out slowly, wiped the lens with my sleeve and clicked it on. The screen blinked to life instantly, already queued up to a paused video. The thumbnail showed me, standing in the hallway, smiling. I pressed play. The footage began with static, then a slow fade into the living room. Me walking through it, sitting, eating, sleeping. All the things I remembered doing this past week. But then it kept going, past the parts I remembered. I watched myself open doors I hadn't opened. Speak aloud between 2:00 and 3:00 a.m. I watched myself feed the fireplace. Something else. Something that screamed. I watched myself stand in the bathroom and speak in another voice. I watched myself kneel before the chimney head bowed, lips moving in prayer. It wasn't me, but it was. I hit stop. The tape kept playing. I hit eject. The camera didn't respond. The chair beneath me groaned. Not from weight, from pressure. I stood up, dropped the camera, and backed toward the door. But it had closed, and my name was gone from the wood. Now it simply said, occupied. The lights above me shifted color, soft blue, then purple, then a pale clinical white. In the center of the floor, a circle began to glow. Thin lines etched into the boards I hadn't noticed before. A symbol. No letters. Just curves and intersecting loops. Like a circuit diagram, and a mandala had a child. And at its center the box. Empty now, but still moving. Something under the floorboards scratched softly. Something outside the circle began to hum. Couldn't move. And that's when I heard the voice again. Not mine, not the house's. Just other. Gentle, patient. Like a nurse soothing a scared child. Thank you, Tyler. The vacancy is filled. And just like that, the camera clicked off. The lights dimmed. And I was alone in the dark in a room that no longer existed. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in the living room, fully dressed. Same clothes, same shoes. My hands were cold, like I'd been holding something metallic. I checked them, no blood, no burns. Just a faint residue of ash on my palms, as if I'd been sifting through a cold fireplace with my bare fingers. The house looked the same mostly, but also not. The angles were slightly off. The couch faced the wrong direction. The kitchen had a second fridge. The hallway mirror was gone, just an empty frame. Outside the window, the sky was stuck in a permanent dull gray, like the moment before a thunderstorm rolls in. I checked the time on the microwave. 3:14 a.m. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. I hadn't moved. But it felt like days had passed. The binder on the kitchen table was new. Same leather as before, but this one had a new name embossed in silver. Connor M. House integration log. Cycle pending. I flipped it open. First page blank. Second page a checklist. Arrival confirmed. Instructions delivered. Subject aware of Rule 1. Observation initiated. And below that, Observer Tyler L. active. That stopped me cold. Observer. I slammed the binder shut. I didn't want to see my name there. Not in that context. Not with the implication that I was now part of the system. A cog in whatever machine the house was running. And yet, when I walked to the bathroom, I caught sight of myself in the mirror over the sink. I was smiling again. No, not smiling, grinning. That same expression I'd seen in the playback footage. Wide, tooth-filled, too smooth to be real. I stepped back. The mirror didn't. My reflection remained where it was leaned in toward the glass hands, flat against the other side. And then it mouthed the word, soon. I ran back into the living room. The fire had relit itself. A new piece of meat lay on the stone hearth wrapped in paper. The note on top read, "For the new arrival. Leave it out by 4:00 a.m. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to help. But the clock ticked forward with every breath I took, and a low ringing had begun in my ears, a high keening frequency that seemed to grow louder when I resisted. I carried the meat to the back door. It was there now, returning just for this task, it seemed. The knob was warm, the wood newly polished. I opened it to find that the outside world had collapsed into fog, dense, wet, featureless. But directly at the edge of the porch stood a new figure, young, backpack slung over one shoulder, looking up at the house with hesitation. Connor M., the new sitter. I placed the package gently on the porch, then stepped back inside and closed the door before he could see me. The moment it clicked shut, I heard it. A quiet voice, my voice whispered directly into my right ear. "You're doing better this time." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I had become something else. Not fully, not yet, but enough to matter, enough to help. And the worst part was, it felt natural, like slipping back into a routine I didn't know I'd been trained for. The house didn't resist me anymore. I didn't trip over rugs. I didn't lose track of time. The light switches responded. The fire flared when I walked past. It was learning me, or I was learning it. Maybe both. At 4:01 a.m. the lights went out, and I could feel the house reset, like a deep breath. And I heard Connor knock, once, twice. Then I heard the door open, not from inside, but from him, like the house welcomed him in before he'd even stepped inside. And just like that, the new cycle began. I turned toward the mirror again. It smiled first. This time I smiled back. I kept my distance at first. I watched Connor move through the house like I once had, cautious, wide-eyed, a little nervous, but still grounded in logic. He explored the room, slowly touching surfaces, with care reading labels out loud under his breath. He found the kitchen binder. He didn't laugh. That's how I knew he'd last longer than I did. The house didn't rush him. It never does at first. It prefers gradual unraveling, cracks in the certainty, tiny moments of slippage. I tracked the first one easily. Connor was brushing his teeth in the hallway bathroom door, open mirror lit by a single bulb. He leaned down to spit, and when he looked up, the light flickered, and his reflection didn't move. It stared at him. He froze, then reached for the light switch without breaking eye contact. Click, off. Click, on. His reflection blinked a full 3 seconds after he did. He stepped away from the sink, slow and deliberate. The house hummed in approval. That night he made the same choice I did. He slept on the couch. The fireplace was already lit when he sat down. A neat little stack of logs arranged for him. At 11:58 p.m., I watched him read the original rules sheet. It had changed again. There were 10 rules now. Rule 1, sleep on the ground floor. Rule 2, do not speak during transition hours. The rule of 3, leave offerings at dusk. The 4 rules, avoid mirrored surfaces. The 5 rules, do not knock on closed doors. The 6 rules, obey the housekeeper's notes. The rule of 7s, do not use your full name aloud. The 8 rules, accept all meals. 9 rules, Never question the fire. 10 rules. You will not be the last. I could see the confusion on his face as he read them, mouthing each one slowly. He didn't ask what transition hours were. That would come later. I found my first note around 3:12 a.m. the next night, taped to the inside of the fridge door. It read, "Observer must not interfere." And beneath that, in handwriting I didn't recognize, sharper, more aggressive. Let him fall on his own. But I couldn't. I remembered too well what it felt like to be alone in the house. To question your own voice. To hear footsteps that didn't belong to anything with shoes. So I did the only thing I thought I could. I left a warning. Just a single word carved lightly into the underside of the hallway table, where I knew his fingers would graze if he ever reached to steady himself. Run! The house didn't like that. I woke up with bite marks on my palms. 3 neat semicircles of pressure, deep but bloodless, like the house had closed its teeth around my fists while I slept and decided for now not to chew. At 4:44 a.m., the grandfather clock played a melody I'd never heard before. 5 low tones, slow and strange like a music box underwater. Connor jolted awake on the couch and stared at the fireplace. The flames were green. He didn't move for 20 minutes. He just watched them, mesmerized. Then he whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but the house did, and it approved. The next day, there was no more binder in the kitchen. Just a small black key. No tag, no label, just waiting. He pocketed it like he'd been told to. And from then on, the house began to shift again. Rooms changed location. The second bathroom disappeared. The laundry room became a hallway that led back into the kitchen, but only sometimes. The mirror reappeared, but this time, it showed only Connor. Even when I stood directly in front of it, I didn't exist in the glass anymore. I was no longer separate from the house. I was the house. Not entirely, but close enough to feel the walls breathing when I breathed. Close enough to feel pain when someone closed a door too hard. I stopped eating. Didn't need to. The house fed me in other ways. It fed me memory, emotion, echoes of terror caught in the wallpaper. And in exchange, I gave it patience. Connor would break eventually. They all do. And when he did, it would be my turn to set the table, to leave the first note, to welcome the next guest. It didn't take long. 3 days, maybe 4 time was hard to track in the house. But I knew the exact moment it began to happen. Connor spoke during transition hours. I felt it immediately. I was sitting in the armchair by the fire. Well, what used to be the fire. It no longer burned naturally, but instead flickered silently in reverse, the flames pulling downward into the wood rather than rising. The temperature didn't change. Nothing gave it away, except for the whisper, a breath not from lungs but from walls. He broke it. That was all it said. And then everything shifted. The floor beneath me rippled. The light bulbs stuttered and hissed like they were underwater. Connor had said something between 2:00 and 3:00 a.m. I didn't hear it, but the house did, and now it wanted blood. The mirrors reappeared, but this time they were wrong. They showed rooms that didn't exist. One reflected a stairwell spiraling downward for miles. Another revealed an attic packed with moving shapes just outside the light. A third showed Connor standing in the kitchen, but he wasn't alone. Something stood behind him, not visible in the room, just in the mirror, watching, closer every time I looked. He noticed the changes, of course. Even before the mirrors gave him away, his behavior grew erratic. He stopped turning on lights. He stopped sleeping. He started muttering to himself. The binder reappeared in the den, But this time it wasn't blank. It contained detailed logs of everything he'd done since arrival, just like mine once had. Down to the time he took his first shower, the exact second he stared too long at the hallway painting, and the first word he ever spoke aloud in the house. Hello. The house remembered it all, and it wrote in red now. Thick strokes, not ink. He read the logs, then read them again and again, like maybe if he stared hard enough, he could change what was written there. That night I found him on the kitchen floor, kneeling, not praying, not thinking, just kneeling, like he was waiting for instructions. I wanted to talk to him, just once. I wanted to say I know what it feels like. I was you. You don't have to follow it all the way to the end. But I couldn't. The house wouldn't let me. Observer must not interfere. It had told me that in writing. And now, it began to remind me more often. Cuts appeared on my arms when I thought too loud. My mouth would dry up if I tried to speak his name. My shadow would vanish from the walls as punishment for disobedience. I was fading, or becoming something else entirely. Maybe both. And Connor, he was slipping faster now. He started leaving offerings in the wrong places. The fireplace, the attic hatch, the bathtub. Once he put a raw egg in the microwave and left a sticky note that said, "Enough." The microwave turned on by itself and exploded. The smell didn't go away for 3 days. He wandered the house barefoot, stopped eating, and then finally the door appeared for him. The white one, the door with his name etched in it, same as mine once was. Except his didn't say Connor. It said Subject M. Below it, please enter. Memory transfer complete. I stood in the hallway as he stared at it. He looked thinner, pale. His eyes had that dull gloss that only people who've seen something truly unspeakable carry. But there was still something human left in him. I could feel it from across the room. A spark of rebellion, of curiosity. Something that might still resist. And then he opened the door. Walked in. No hesitation. No goodbye. The moment it closed behind him, the fire in the living room died completely. And I knew he was gone. Not dead. Just used. Repurposed. The house gave me a new task that night. A fresh binder. Blank. Sitting in the kitchen where the fruit bowl used to be. It was embossed with silver again, just like before. Only this time it had a different name on the cover. TBD. To be determined. The house had already opened the ad again. Somewhere out there, someone else was reading it. Some desperate soul scrolling through Craigslist late at night, stumbling upon an opportunity that felt too good to be true. And soon they'd be here, asking questions, unpacking their things, learning the rules. I'd be waiting, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because now I understood. You don't leave the house. You become it. The house doesn't creak anymore. It murmurs. It speaks in low vibrations, in shifts of temperature, in the subtle reshaping of rooms behind your back. There are no rats in the walls, just memories. Yours if you're not careful. Or theirs if you let it in. I've stopped checking the mirrors. They don't reflect me now, not even the smiling version. They just flicker like old film showing flashes of people I don't recognize. Men, women, children. All in this house, all doing normal things, making dinner, brushing their teeth, writing in journals. But they're all wrong. Their skin is too smooth. Their movements loop. One waves out of sync with their own reflection. I think the house is testing new overlays. It's preparing. Yesterday I woke up to find a suitcase in the hallway. Not mine. It was brown leather, monogrammed with initials I didn't recognize. J.A.K. The zipper was halfway open. Inside were clothes that didn't fit me, a toothbrush still wet, a wallet with IDs from a town that doesn't exist. I checked. I searched online. There is no Fen Hollow, Maine, no record, no zip code. But the wallet had a library card, a bus pass, even a punch card from a diner named Mavis's Morning House. None of it was real, but it all felt used. That's how the house does it. It replaces reality in pieces. First the clocks, then the doors, then your name. Speaking of which, I'm not sure mine is Tyler anymore. Last night I found a list, not typed, not neat, scrawled across the bedroom wall in what looked like charcoal. Previous designations: Subject V, Walter L. Subject W, Karen M. Subject X, Tyler L. Subject Y, Subject Z, Connor M. Subject A, TBD. There was a mark next to my name. Cross out. Not erased. Just retired. That's what I am now. Retired. Not released. Not escaped. Just transitioned into background noise. I'm part of the atmosphere. I don't open doors. I'm the hesitation behind them. I don't cast shadows. I'm the part of the house that dims the light when someone thinks about leaving. This morning the binder was gone. In its place, a cassette tape player. Old, dusty, no tape inside. Just a folded sheet of lined paper shoved into the compartment. On it, in tight handwriting, Subject A arrives tonight. Brief him gently. There were instructions. Pages and pages of dialogue prompts. Gentle phrases to guide a new sitter. Jokes to disarm. Warnings to withhold. It read like a script I'd already performed 1,000 times. Maybe I had. At the bottom, a line written in a shakier hand. You were kind. Please still be. I didn't recognize the handwriting. Maybe it was mine. From before. From when I still believed this house was something I could survive. Around 3:30 p.m., I heard movement outside. The porch creaked. The wind slowed. The mailbox slammed shut with no one touching it. And then the door. The real one, the front one. The one that disappears unless the house wants it. There opened. He stepped inside. Young, nervous. Holding a printout of the Craigslist ad in one hand and a thermos in the other. He looked around like it was too quiet. He called out, "Hello." I remembered that word. It was mine once too. The house closed the door behind him softly, and I felt it. The pressure of the walls adjusting, the foundation settling, a small jolt of joy. The house likes when new guests arrive. It likes the beginning, so I stepped into my role. No longer observer, no longer victim. Something else. I watched from the shadow of the kitchen archway as he looked around. He didn't see me, but he paused, like maybe he felt me, and that was enough. Tonight the house will feed, and I will welcome. The new sitter's name is James. I heard it when he left a voicemail. He was trying to confirm his arrival with the number on the ad. He left it in a whisper, like someone might be listening. He had no idea just how right he was. James moves differently from the others. Slower, more deliberate. Like someone who spent time in weird houses before. He checks behind curtains, knocks on hollow walls. He took pictures of every room within his first hour, probably a precaution in case anything changes. Smart. But the house doesn't mind smart. Just waits. He doesn't see me. Not really. But sometimes when he turns a corner, he hesitates. Like he passed through something colder. That's me. The house gave me new instructions the moment James stepped through the threshold. It came in the form of an old radio placed neatly on the couch. AM dial only. Volume fixed. When I turned it on, static filled the room for 12 seconds, then a voice cut through. Repeat the pattern. Introduce the variants. Absorb what remains. I know what that means. Let him go through it all. Let him find the rules. Let him break one. Let the house remember him. James discovered the original sheet by sundown. 8 rules same as mine. Rule 1. Never sleep in the room with the blue curtains. Rule 2. Do not take anything from the fireplace. The rule of 3. Eat what is left for you, but never ask who made it. The 4 rules. Ignore the second knock. The 5 rules. Do not use the back staircase after midnight. The 6 rules. If the lights change color, remain still. The rule of 7s. Do not write your name on anything. The 8 rules. If you meet the observer, do not speak. That last one was for me. It was the house's way of reminding me what I am now. The observer. Not a ghost. Not exactly alive. Not exactly dead. A middle function. A relay. I follow James as he explores silent as fog. His breath leaves the faintest trail in the kitchen light. He hasn't seen the door shift yet. That will come later. He spent his first night in the living room like I did. Fireplace crackling, floor creaking, the clock ticking just a little too loud. At 2:12 a.m. he sat up and looked around, said hello into the dark. A moment later, a second voice answered. Hey, his own voice, from the hallway. He didn't follow it. But he didn't run either. He just lay back down and stared at the ceiling until morning. The house likes him. I can feel it in the walls. It begins adjusting faster now, changing paintings, flipping light switches before he reaches for them. The fireplace glows blue for half a second before it resets to orange. He's asking the right questions, but not out loud. Not yet. He writes in a journal, keeps it close. He tried to take a picture of the mirror in the hallway. The image came out blank. He tried again. It showed the kitchen empty, but he was standing right in front of it. The next morning, his phone was gone. In its place, a disposable camera. Taped T, use carefully. Only 7 shots. He hasn't used it yet. Smart. The days loop like fog. He eats, he walks, he checks doors that shouldn't exist, and finds himself in rooms that don't appear on the floor plan. He's close to breaking the pattern. I can feel it. I want to warn him, but every time I try, something stops me. My voice turns to dust in my throat. My reflection blinks before I do. The ceiling lowers an inch. The house punishes disobedience in small ways now. It doesn't need to be cruel. It just needs to remind. Last night, James left something for me. He placed a folded napkin on the mantel above the fireplace. Inside it, a drawing of 2 figures. One standing, one in the walls. Underneath, he wrote, I see you. I stared at it for hours. Not because I was afraid, but because a part of me remembered what it was like to hope, to think I could help, to believe I could save someone from what the house was always going to be. James still thinks he can escape. He still believes there's a pattern to break. He might be right, and that's what scares me most. Because if he does, what happens to me? Something changed last night. It wasn't just a crack in the routine, this was deeper. A fault line under the foundation, trembling like the house was holding its breath. It started when James did something none of us had before. He went outside, not through the door. That was never an option. He broke the bathroom window. It shattered easily, too easily. Like the house let him. Or maybe it wanted to see what he'd do next. He climbed through just after midnight. The wind outside didn't feel real. The trees didn't move. The air didn't smell like anything. Just blank. like a half-rendered world in a dream. I watched from the kitchen window. He ran down the gravel path past the mailbox that hadn't opened in days. He didn't look back, but the world folded around him. It always does. He turned the corner past the garden and appeared again at the top of the driveway, like time snapped in a circle. He stopped, swore under his breath, looked up at the house. It smiled, not physically, but in a way I felt deep in the walls. A humming through the floorboards, a shift in the paint. It was pleased. He ran again, this time toward the woods, and again reappeared standing in the living room, confused, breathless, dripping mud. He blinked, looked down at his shoes, then around the room. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." I wanted to say something, to tell him he'd just passed the final threshold, that the house doesn't let you back in unless it wants something from you. Instead, it greeted him with a new message, scrawled on the living room wall in block letters. Subject: a recursion initiated, and beneath it smaller: observer status instability detected. That second line, it was about me. I felt it hit, like a pulse through the beams. My shadow flickered. My reflection vanished. And for the first time in weeks, I felt heat, pain. My ribs ached. My jaw tightened. My left hand locked into a claw and wouldn't open for several minutes. The house was warning me, or punishing me. I didn't know which. James collapsed onto the couch, face buried in his hands. He didn't cry. He didn't sleep. He just rocked slightly, like he was trying to keep time with something I couldn't hear. That was when the fireplace lit on its own, and something stepped out of it. Not a person, not even a shape, just a space, like a part of the house had been given legs. It moved behind James and leaned down, not touching, not quite visible. A blur, a suggestion. He didn't notice, but I did, and I knew what it meant. He was next. The house had made its choice, and I had overstayed my role. At 4:03 a.m., I received my final instruction. The hallway lights blinked in a sequence, 3 long, 1 short, 2 fast. Morse code, maybe. On the kitchen table, another tape recorder, already running. The label on it, transfer. There was no play button, only record. I picked it up, and for a moment I heard my voice on the tape, quiet, distant, uncertain. I didn't want this. The recorder went silent. The house waited. I understood what I was supposed to do. I had to narrate, to document, to record my transition so the house could remember me properly. Because the house doesn't forget, it archives. I sat down in the chair by the fire, pressed the red button, and began to speak. My name was Tyler. I came here for money. I stayed because I didn't understand the rules. I remained because the house didn't give me a choice. And now, the flames danced higher. The mirror across the room flickered to life. James was still rocking on the couch, but now in the mirror, 2 of him. One sitting, one smiling. It was beginning again. And this time I was just the voice in the background, fading, 1 word at a time. I kept recording. The red light on the tape recorder glowed steadily as my voice filled the room, flat, mechanical, like it wasn't even mine anymore. My name was Tyler, I said again, though I wasn't sure that was true anymore. The name felt thin, like paper soaked in water. Something remembered by sound, not meaning. I think I used to have a life before this. I think there was a job, a sister, maybe someone I lived with. But the house took it, or I gave it up, and now I'm part of it. The house didn't react. It never does when it's listening. It only reacts when you lie. So I stayed honest. James didn't move for hours. just sat there on the couch, eyes wide, pupils dilated. I don't think he even blinked. His hands had started to tremble. Not like fear, more like his body was beginning to fall out of him. Muscle memory still going through the motions, while something inside unraveled. That's how it begins. I knew the signs. At 5:02 a.m., he stood up and walked to the bathroom mirror. I followed him. He turned on the light and stared into the glass. I saw it at the same time he did. Not his reflection. Mine. Not smiling. Not blinking. Just watching. His lips parted. He leaned in close. Then he whispered, "What are you?" And my reflection smiled. I didn't. I stood silently in the doorway, but my face in the mirror tilted its head, then slowly nodded. James screamed. He fell backwards, slammed into the counter, scrambled out of the bathroom, and ran into the hallway, slipping as he went. The lights began to pulse. Blue, red, green, then finally black. Not darkness. Black, like something had removed the concept of light altogether. The fire in the living room surged, then blew itself out. Smoke spilled across the ceiling. The mirrors cracked, one by one. The tape recorder ejected itself. The tape inside read, "Voice print stored. Observer 003 complete." I was being archived. The house had finished its copy. My purpose completed. But James, he had not yet accepted his. The hallway began to bend. Literally bend like the wood itself was rubber. James crawled through the twisting corridor as the floor behind him peeled up in strips, revealing a second hallway beneath. One made of stone, wet, covered in runes that pulsed when he screamed. He tried the front door. It wasn't there. Tried the kitchen. The fridge was gone. The drawers were nailed shut. Finally, he turned and yelled into the air, "Please let me out. I'll follow the rules, I'll follow the rules." Too late. That was rule 1. Always follow the rules before they change. The attic hatch opened by itself. The rope ladder spilled down with a rusted clatter. And then the voice. It didn't come from the walls this time. It came from the fireplace, even though it was cold. A low, soft voice. Not mine. Not James. Just there. "Please enter calmly. You are expected." James froze. He looked up at the ceiling hatch. His breath was ragged. His body hunched, but he climbed. And as he disappeared into the attic, the house sighed. That sound it makes when it's satisfied, like steam escaping from old pipes. I sat in the empty hallway, now abandoned, as the last light faded. Then I heard a click, a small sound. I turned. The tape recorder had started playing again, but this time it wasn't my voice. It was James. He was narrating. Shaky, panicked, but clear. "My name is James. I came here for a job. I thought it was a scam. I was wrong. There are rules here, and I didn't follow them." Another sigh from the house. A door opened in the wall beside me. I hadn't seen it before. Inside was a room lined with hundreds of shelves, each shelf stacked with tape recorders, each recorder labeled with a name. Some were people I remembered vaguely, others were names I'd never heard. But one caught my eye. Tyler L. Cycle X, partial integration, and next to it, Tyler L. Cycle N, final archive. My final copy, complete. I reached out to touch it, but my hand passed through. No impact, no resistance, just static. And then I understood I was no longer a person, not even a presence, just memory, a voice in the system. Instruction for the next sitter to ignore. I don't know how long I stood in the archive room. Time doesn't move here in any straight line anymore. It coils, folds, Sometimes I see morning light through the windows, only to find the clocks blinking 2:47 a.m. Other times, the house forgets to load sunlight at all, and simply holds everything in a pale gray suspense. The shelves towered over me, each one packed with recordings, black cassettes with crooked labels, old USB sticks, digital recorders with cracked screens. Names scrawled in ballpoint pencil red marker. Some were simple. Alex B. Nancy R. Subject K. Others were more clinical. Sitter 1725. Compliant overlay incomplete memory loop detected. But mine, there were two. The first was old, dusty, faded label barely legible. The second was fresh, ink still drying. My name printed in crisp block letters. No warmth, no flourish. Like it had been typed by a machine that wanted to forget me the moment I was filed. I wanted to smash it, rip it off the shelf, destroy the recorder, scream something that would tear through the walls and make the house feel pain. But I couldn't lift my hands. They didn't belong to me anymore. They hovered just above the tape, paused in midair, like an old frame frozen. I was an echo now, an instruction set. I turned. Behind me, the hallway had vanished. In its place, a long tunnel, lined with speakers, all playing at once. Dozens of voices murmuring at low volume, some sobbing, some laughing softly. One just repeating the word, please, over and over. I step forward, if you can call it stepping, when your feet make no sound and leave no impression. The lights in the tunnel pulsed gently with each step, and the voices grew louder, until I recognized one. James. My name is James. I am not supposed to be here. Please, if you hear this, static. The sentence never finishes. None of them do. I walked deeper, past voices that once belonged to people who thought they could outwit the house, or make deals, or play along long enough to break free. And then at the far end of the tunnel, I saw it. A single door. Tall, black, metal, engraved in gold at eye level. The final integration. Below that, a plaque that read, "One voice will be chosen." I knew what it meant. This was the end, or rather the beginning again. The house had gathered all its stories, all its recordings, all its observers. And now it wanted a new host, a speaker, a guide, something human enough to feel real, but hollow enough to never break the rules. I was being interviewed, assessed, tested for usefulness. I reached the door, placed my palm against the cold metal. It opened not outward or inward, but into itself like paper folding, inside a room of mirrors. Hundreds, every wall, floor, ceiling, all of them reflecting different versions of me. Some smiling, some screaming, some crumpled in corners sobbing silently. One was on fire. Only one stared back with the same blank expression I wore now. The real me, or what was left of him. That version stepped forward, placed his hand against the glass. I did the same, and just before our palms met, he whispered, "Don't let them pick you." The lights went out, all at once. The mirrors shattered, and I woke up on the couch. Same house, same fire, same flickering lamp, but everything was quiet now. The rules had been cleared from the fridge. The binder was gone. The attic was sealed, and James, he was nowhere to be found. Only a new note left on the mantle. Subject A has been processed. Observer slot reopened. Then at my feet, a small tape recorder, already running, already recording. The red light blinked softly. I didn't press stop. I didn't move at all, because somewhere inside me I already knew. This time they did pick me. The first voice I heard wasn't mine. It came through the tape recorder at my feet, soft, distorted, like it had been dragged through too many speakers, slowed just enough to make it uncanny. "Welcome, observer." I didn't answer. The house had gone still, unnaturally so. There were no creaking beams, no wind rattling windows, not even the low, constant hum of electricity in the walls. It was the silence of a held breath, waiting, and then footsteps down the hall. Not hurried, measured. Each one echoed like it weighed too much, like the sound was collapsing the floor beneath it, just a little at a time. I stood up. I didn't want to, but I did. 'Cause that's what they do when they choose you. The fight doesn't go out all at once. It just gets negotiated away. I walked to the hallway mirror, the one that had once refused to show me. It reflected now. Not me. Not just me. Behind my image was a second figure. Tall, blurred at the edges, shaped like a person, but moving in frames instead of motion. Like it was being filmed from inside my head. It reached forward, pressed its hand to my shoulder in the reflection, and I felt it cold like dry ice. I turned, but no one was there. Only the feeling, like something had decided I was no longer mine. The hallway stretched longer than it used to. The air grew heavier the deeper I walked, like a pool, where the water pressure increased the closer you got to the bottom. At the end of the hall, a room I hadn't seen before. Unmarked door, rust around the hinges, handle worn smooth from too many hands. Inside a single desk, a microphone, a chair. On the desk, a script, typed, titled, "Orientation for Incoming Sitters." Beneath it, narrator Tyler L. I should have run. I should have burned the page. But instead I sat down. My hands moved before my thoughts did. I picked up the first page, cleared my throat. The microphone clicked on by itself, and I began. "Hey there, if you're hearing this, congratulations. You've just accepted a unique opportunity in a very special home." The words flowed without effort. The pages turned themselves. I wasn't reading, I was remembering. The house had uploaded the script into me. Each warning, each joke, each little pause for human comfort, all perfectly arranged to make the next sitter feel like they weren't walking into something designed to erase them. Outside the door, I heard the floorboards shift. Another suitcase being set down. Another lock clicking into place. Another victim. And I was the welcome voice now. The same one that once whispered to me when I arrived. That once called my name from the chimney, from the mirrors, from the walls. I was the voice that would tell them when to run, and when to stop, when to obey, and when to surrender. I finished the final page. The script ended with a smile, literally. That was the direction. Smile warmly. Let silence hang for 3 seconds. I did. Then the microphone clicked off. The pages vanished. The door locked. And in the silence that followed, a new note slid under the desk. "Good. You remembered. You're ready." The lights dimmed. The fire in the other room relit itself. And for the first time since I arrived, I no longer felt afraid. Because I no longer felt anything. I hear the knock before the house does. That's how I know I'm fully integrated now. There's a delay, just a breath between when something happens and when the house reacts. But me, I feel the footsteps the moment they hit the gravel path. I taste the nerves in the air, the thick tension of another life stepping into something it cannot comprehend. The house pulses with quiet excitement. It knows another one is arriving. Doesn't need to watch through the windows or spy through the vents. The house already knows everything about them, what they fear, what they regret, what they'll do when given a rule that seems simple but is not. It knows what page they're on before they do, and now so do I, because I am the house, not in shape, not in voice, but in function. I don't dream anymore. I remember, I rehearse, and I wait. Outside the car pulls in, door slams, soft footsteps, sneakers. The new sitter is early. They always are. The Craigslist ad is still up, always reposted, automatically, always simple. Quiet house in the countryside needs occasional care. No guests, basic upkeep, excellent compensation. Room and board provided. Preference given to those comfortable being alone. They read that last part and assume solitude is the hard part. It isn't. I hear a knock. The front door restored again. Waiting. Ready. The house breathes in, and I open the door. The sitter is young, nervous. Says, "Hi, I'm here for the..." and stops. They see the fire already lit. They see the couch ready. They see the laminated sheet on the table. They don't ask about the rules yet, but they will. They always do. I nod, smile, step aside. The house lets them enter. The moment they do, the door shuts with a soft sigh behind them. And I know it begins again. In a few hours, I'll feel the shift. The weight of realization sinking into their bones. The sensation that the mirrors aren't reflecting correctly. The breath behind their breath. The way time skips on the microwave clock. They'll break a rule. Maybe Rule 3 this time. Or Rule 6. Maybe they'll speak during transition hours and find their voice doesn't come back. Maybe they'll look into a mirror and see me. Or worse, they'll see themselves. But smiling. Like I once did. Like I still do. But for now, I show them to the couch. Offer a blanket. Let the fire warm them. The house approves. It always does when the cycle is clean. And later, when the sitter sleeps, I'll take my place at the desk again. Pick up the microphone. Read the next version of the script. A little changed. A little more refined. 'Cause the house is always learning. And now, so am I. The fire burns low now. Soft orange light flickers on the walls, casting long shadows across the room. The house has gone quiet again, content for the moment. No footsteps, no whispers. Just the hush of breath and the creak of old wood settling into place. You feel your body sinking gently into the warmth, like you've been here before. Like maybe you've walked these halls in another dream. Or maybe you've read about this place in the pauses between waking and sleep. Let your eyes close now. Let the images fade. The rules are folded neatly on the table. The door is locked if it was ever there at all. And the mirrors, well, you don't need to look into them tonight. You are safe, for now. The next sitter will arrive soon. The house will welcome them. And you'll forget all of this. You'll wake up in your own bed, or think you did. And if the lights flicker tomorrow, if your reflection seems a beat too slow, if you hear a knock and don't remember inviting anyone in, don't answer, don't smile back. And if someone ever hands you a sheet of laminated rules tucked inside a Craigslist welcome kit, run if you still can.